Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for our final Tableau Prep user group of the year. I know this is a particularly busy time for user groups, so thank you for taking the time to join ours. There's a lot competing for attention, so I'm grateful that you're all here. I think we had the New York user group on Thursday last week, and I think there were maybe like 20 plus other user groups all last Thursday, so I know what it's like, how they're spoiled for choice at the moment. But we have two great sessions for you today. I'm just going to go through a couple of slides as per as our usual format. So if you're unfamiliar with the Tableau Prep user group and this is your first time joining us, I'm Jack Parry. I'm one of the leaders here for the user group. I do this primarily alongside Jenny Martin and Jared Flores, also help support from time to time as well. I'm the only one here today because we actually rotate the time zones of our user group. So we stagger them. Obviously, today's time zone really accommodates the Americas and APAC. If you're in Europe, thanks for joining us. I know it's late in your evening. But every other user group we'll flip, whether it's EMEA friendly or APAC friendly. So Jenny is based in the UK and I'm sure getting ready to go to sleep. That's why I'm on here today. We do also have a Slack channel called the Tableau Prep Playground, where we've tried to create a space where you can connect with other Tableau Prep users with problems you might be having with the tool. There are some members of the Tableau Prep product team on that channel as well. I wouldn't say, I'll be transparent, I wouldn't say they're like 100% responsive to what people put in there, but it was designed to create another place where people could connect, could share ideas around the tool that wasn't just in the Tableau community forums. So if you do want to join that space and be involved, feel free to scan that QR code. It should provide you with an invite link. If it doesn't and that's expired for whatever reason, just let me know in the chat and I can regenerate a link or just share the invite link in the chat on the Bevy page. But today we've got two great speakers. We have Lewis Powell joining us from the City of Chicago, who's going to talk about how Tableau Prep has shaped City of Chicago's data culture. And then we have Ojusui. I'm apologizing if I have not pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry. But is going to be talking about the Tableau Prep landscape, or the data prep landscape within Tableau, both past and present, his thoughts on that. He's a Tableau social ambassador as well, so a well-known figure in the Tableau community. He's a great person to connect and learn from. But with that, I am going to hand over to Lewis, who's going to be delivering our first session. If you've got questions throughout the session, then please feel free to dump them into the Q&A. If there's any kind of general Tableau prep questions, myself and the speaker that isn't presenting can try and get to some of those. But if you have questions about the presentation specifically, just drop them in the Q&A and then we'll have time at the end of each presentation to dive into some of those questions. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Lewis.
All right, thanks a lot, Jack. Appreciate it. I will get started. Thanks for everybody for joining, especially across the multiple time zones. So appreciate you guys making the time. Let's get this screen up there. I think we're good. All right. All right, great. Again, thanks for having me. I love these user groups. This is how I learned Tableau for everything, and I'm very excited to do this one because Tableau Prep is my favorite part about Tableau. Happy to share sort of some insights from our journey that hopefully can help you guys out. So let's see here. So I know, well, to get started, I know that Tableau Prep's like a pretty technical tool, and the folks on here are probably pretty technical folks. We've only got 20 minutes, so I don't want to get too much into technical weeds, only because I know there's so much good information out there that can be found on everything that applies to your organization. I assume that maybe it's not that often you guys have some analytics folks from government. So I figured that it might be helpful to give sort of my perspective coming from the city of Chicago and sort of how analytics plays a role in city government, which might be a little bit different from where you're used to if we're already coming from. Who are you? Great question. I will answer that. My name is Louis. There's not much to me except that I love data, love Tableau. But in 10 seconds, I'll give it to you. I came in the city of Chicago through a political campaign, started off in the mayor's office, and came to the budget office. So this is technically my third administration, third mayor. I really found my sort of calling in data, and not to get too mushy off the start, but that's directly because of Tableau. Sort of the efficiencies and the work I sort of saw with the potential of just being a data-driven person was purely my sort of impression way back when we first got Tableau. But that's it about me. Let's chat about City of Chicago. So the city government under the mayor's got about 40 different agencies. We've got a budget of around $16 billion, around 30,000, 40,000 city workers. And so with a city that size, I think when people think of local government, they forget sort of how the size differential for cities. City of Chicago is sometimes bigger than a lot of states. So when we talk about our different city departments, they're really sort of their own operations, their own world. From a data perspective, if it sounds like it's difficult to navigate, it is. It's very rough. It's very difficult. There's a million systems. We have over 200 IT applications that I know of. Managing through all that is very complicated. But Tableau has been really valuable over the years. So if you're a data geek like me and you like Tableau content, you've probably seen this chart before. It's what Tableau has done over the last decade or so. And to cut to the chase, Tableau is just always evolving and always changing, always innovating is what they go with. So this is a timeline of their feature releases over the past decade. And our journey, there's me at the top, is it takes on sort of many events and milestones, and sort of looking retrospectively on, I've been here at the city over a decade, and it's really impossible to separate our sort of successes with Tableau, not just Tableau or data as a tool, but specifically the evolving nature of a platform like this. From our initial use cases in workforce management here at OBM to the creation of the first formal data analytics division at City Hall, Tableau has really guided us through a lot of challenges, political, budget, financial, a lockdown, a pandemic, strategic realignments. We went from once being a group of just 2 creators and barely 200 viewers for a few dashboards. Today we're launching, or this year, we're launching Tableau Enterprise, which is really scaling up the data analytics model and giving access to all city departments and technically all city workers. So those 30,000 employees that are part of this $16 billion budget, we obviously want data to impact their daily work, and the heads of these departments and the sort of public officials to be making policy based off of data and being data-driven decisions. So the impact of getting our hands around data cannot be sort of understated. So that's our past 10 years, and Tableau's sort of feature release are intertwined with specifics and specific inflection points where, again, my favorite tool, Tableau Prep, has changes that have come on that significantly impacted our approach and strategy and our daily work. So getting into a product like this really has shaped how we do our work. Now I'll go through some examples. We only have a little bit of time, but I like to give the answer to the test right from the beginning. But the answer is that to grow, you just have to adapt, always. That's the end of the show. That's the takeaway. Tableau is always innovating, so we've learned that we always need to adapt, and not for a certain amount of time, not until we sort of get comfortable with the tool. It's just a constant part of our operations, and I think we learned that through having products like this that are always coming out with this sort of the next solution to the problem that we're still working towards. So it's been a really great partnership, really. But to set the stage a little bit for where we were when I started, we have a very fragmented IT infrastructure. In some organizations, and it should, a financial system, budget system, an HR system, a time system, are all one system, or at least they talk to each other nicely. Ours don't at all. They don't talk. They don't play well together. We're talking about platforms that we brought on anywhere from 10 years ago to 30 years ago. And the ability to have those, and this isn't, random data from random systems or random department. They're like core informations that need to work with each other. So that's where we found sort of Tableau's spot, is to bring all those data sources in together. Here at OBM, and this scenario might sound familiar, but we were running BI reports and PDFs, and many users are in the same report. They ran them at various points in time. You spend all your time either making sure you ran the report correctly, or making sure the person that you're talking to ran the report correctly. It's a lot of sort of back and forth, and all you're really talking about is what data to talk about. So it doesn't really foster the sort of progression towards our core values when it comes to data, which are nothing mind-blowing here, but very important key things that I think some folks sort of take for granted as little buzzwords, but they're, when you look at your day-to-day and what's causing you headaches and issues, often it's just, simple things like efficiency on processes, trust in data, sort of the culture of data is another sort of broader term, but often that's, there's a disconnect when you're having a conversation with somebody that might not be as, savvy data-wise or technology-wise, and that becomes a struggle. And most importantly, getting data to, be useful and to take action with that data. So, before Tableau, we would, in OBM, we'd have every single analyst, so we have about 30 analysts per department run their own report. They'd run it incorrectly. They email the data because it was a PDF, and then that email becomes used by who knows, what department is using those numbers. And then it takes, lots of time to get back to the discussion at hand. You're just arguing over data. And so, the next step from there was taking the BI reports and just getting the data out of it, working in Excel to at least be more flexible to have the data sort of set the way you want. That's where obviously the value of Tableau Prep comes in. I think before, folks that aren't sort of think of themselves as technologists or data savvy folks don't realize that they're doing sort of the work that these tools are meant to do, or they think that it's some very complicated tool that is outside of their realm. The learning Tableau Prep was just incredible the way it was such a simple product to sort of pick up. I don't come from a coding background or computer science degree. I haven't worked on a political campaign, I've got different sorts of experiences, but I think that's the power of Tableau, is that folks from all different sort of backgrounds can become data driven, and apply that to wherever they have in the organization. And the challenge, that goes on without this type of like data that you can quickly clean up and share, is that you send around for the sake of speed sort of unclean data that has a bunch of caveats, and somebody looking at them will find an error, and then what you're creating is not just a distrust in the data set that's before them at the time, it's distrust in the process. So the folks that sent you that data that's unreliable, whether it's conscious or subconscious, you stop sort of trusting that process to get the information. And that often isn't related to the person sending it. They're doing their best for what they've got, but it's a process that can be improved strategically. So all of these, the efficiency, I think, leads to trust. And that leads to the next feature that came out that I fell in love with, which is data lineage. Data lineage was, often when I would have to clean data and create a chart and send it to somebody, they would like it, and then inevitably there'd be second and third questions about it. So the question would be, where did it come from? And saying you got an email by somebody in the department really isn't a good enough answer. We want to know exactly where it comes from, or else it's just taking someone's word for it. So the features of data lineage, where you can track from a dashboard all the way back to where the data first came into the system, is incredibly valuable. For technical folks, but then also people that just are going to ask that questions. Every time I look at the data lineage line, I don't really think of any technical thing. I just think of all the emails that are saved by being able to work back where something came from. So I think that is sort of the silent power of data lineage, and that your inbox is going to get quieter because people don't need to ask questions about it, because it's all that information is there. So building that trust through these tools is incredibly valuable. And I think through that, you start seeing people, get into, the realization that they can bring data into their day-to-day, whether they consider themselves a technologist or not. So where we are at now at the City of Chicago is we've, for many years, we're on Tableau server with only a few creators and viewers throughout the city departments, maybe 200 or so. Which isn't a lot considering we've got 30,000 employees. So we're creating a lot of dashboards for not that many people to see it. So obviously the sort of light at the end of the tunnel was going completely enterprise with Tableau. So fortunately, in last year, in early 23, we took the step and went enterprise with Tableau, and all the sort of benefits and fancy steps that you see in these demos. That's what it's meant for, where somebody doesn't need to be fully trained on Tableau to go in and see a dashboard and interact with it and get the insights that they need. So building that culture through the deployment of Tableau Enterprises seems straightforward, but there's a lot more to that rollout than we had thought about before. So now we're sort of a year into it, and the product that we used, well, we have a great Tableau account team, but the strategy we use is purely based off Tableau Blueprint. So if you're familiar with that really is key to having a successful rollout. I think the first impressions of software and platforms are really, really long lasting, at least for me. So I think it's important to have a really good impression with the platform. Otherwise, it just takes another long time to get them back And that goes back to the sort of core value of trust. And then again, the reason for all of this is to make decisions, take action, create policy, do something with the data at hand. So often the barrier to having actionable data, at least in the Office of Budget Management, where we want to take sort of financial steps for both historically and looking forward, based on historical data for forecasting, but we want to, people often forget about the management part of our acronym. Departments that see certain obstacles throughout the year, we need to manage that their operations from a financial perspective, and that's very difficult to do when we have data that is stale or lagged. So this is still a challenge that we're working through. Some of it's sort of inherent and institutionalized with our routine processes or our legacy systems. But the more live data or data that we have, that's something we can do something with, the more impactful. Our first sort of dashboard when I started was in workforce management, and we looked at overtime data. Overtime data has it's more complicated than I think people usually give it credit for. Not all overtime data is bad. Not all overtime spending is bad. Not all overtime spending is good. But there's a lot of sort of data points that can impact whether something is within a reasonable amount. But the way our systems are set up, we could only see overtime data, not weeks but months sometimes after the fact. So if we have meetings with our departments in June, we're talking about the overtime spend from January. It's great and good to have those chats, but it's nothing that they can take a step or take an action for next week. So getting one of the things that we did with Tableau Server was creating a direct connection to an old CADA system using some custom SQL to get live time information. That was a total game changer because they can see what their staff is doing last week and make a decision for next week as opposed to last year. So it's one thing to get data so people can report and look at it. It's another thing to get data in a position for folks to take action, because that's what we're all here for. And that's a piece that we're still working with. So, often we're still automating and making things more efficient, but, one of our goals as we roll out a more comprehensive Tableau enterprise is to make that really the default using the tools that Tableau has. So virtual connections is the sort of key to all of our sort of downstream data. We don't want any sort of loose policies around publishing data that couldn't have been a direct connection. And that's complicated when you have over 200 IT systems and they all have their different protocol and they all have the different owners within departments. So it's part of the ongoing sort of work that we do as a budget and management department, but obviously very tied into the Department of Technology Innovation. We want the folks in departments to take these platforms and run with it, but we don't want sort of the Wild West over all 40 departments. We also don't want all 40 departments sitting in isolation, because obviously the financial data that we see in the budget department impacts the police department, institution sanitation. Data isn't meant to be siloed for one city. We try to think of our data as the city's data as opposed to individual departments. And that's one of those things that it's, through these challenges where you don't trust the data that's coming from other departments, or it's a pain to get it, or the people you're talking to don't have the data culture to sort of understand the conversation. It all leads up to this sort of unintended impact of having these data silos and making your organization a little bit less data driven. So that's the gist of specifics that we can relate to Tableau Prep. Now, like, obviously that was a small snippet of it. We go on for hours about very specific technical challenges, things we did during the pandemic. But I think the value that I can offer folks on this call is, as I look back on the different phases of this sort of data journey, these pieces kind of seem straightforward, right? You've got a beginning, you've got a build, you've got some obstacle, and you implement it citywide, you scale it up, and then you go forward for the future. But remember, this is like being done as we're doing our other duties, like balancing the budget, or making sure the aldermen and city council had all the information they need for the constituents. So balancing all of that and also sort of seeing the broader picture is hard to do, or at least it's. I'll say this: during all these phases, we didn't know we were in that phase while we're in it. So it's, there's certain times we have a plan, there's certain times you're realizing you're building on something that's happened in the past. And, being able to step back is sometimes hard to do without a partner. So our partners that were able to sort of bring this sort of broader sort of journey and look and strategy going forward is, the folks you've got at Tableau, and things like this, user groups where you're learning from other organizations. It's hard to, it's much easier to connect something from like a person instead of Googling it. You can Google anything you want at any time. Sort of offering our experience as something that hopefully you can relate to is what I hope you can get out of this, these meetups. And we try to boil it down to specific things you can look out for. So in the beginning, I think you have to keep looking for data evangelists. People love data, love to tell their stories. Again, learning from users is what sticks. This often exists throughout an organization that you don't know about. So actively looking for these folks is important. One thing during the growth of analytics here at OBM that I was totally oblivious to the importance of was having an executive sponsor. The folks at the top need to be on board with the platform, or else you're going to have small improvements, but you're not going to make gigantic changes. And often data evangelists or sort of data folks sometimes aren't in that conversation, but it's really important for that conversation to be prioritized, no matter what stage you think you're at, because it's difficult to go make all this progress and then certain executives aren't on board, or they have different plans and different priorities. So sort of getting all your ducks in a row while you're growing is important. I'm sure there's some admin folks on the call, but I cannot emphasize having a fantastic admin person. Before we got Tableau Server, me and my former boss, Eve Jennings, we kind of thought about managing the database and figured, we could probably do that. So wrong. Our administrator Darius, he keeps everything together, and nothing works without an admin that's on board with the platform as well. So that's as important as even the executive sponsor. And then the point we're at now, as we're scaling to other departments, is really identifying the data leaders or data stewards within the departments. And this is one thing that 10 years ago, if you said we can get Tableau Enterprise and roll this out, I would said yes, let's do it. Like, just get all the toys and let's throw it out there for everybody to work with. But actually looking back on it, at the time I was frustrated that we weren't sort of getting access to the platform quicker, but we learned a lot before this sort of launch. So, which I'm glad for, because we're launching it with a sort of more careful approach, and one that sort of is thoughtful in the sort of specific operations for different departments. Animal care and control and police department are all under the mayor, but they're completely different operations. So data means a completely different thing to those folks. but using one platform, there's a sort of central understanding of how to go about sort of data sharing and working with other departments. And doing that, I think, is crucial to have a model that works. So for years, our sort of institutional models was way more centralized than I think is ideal. A very few people having access to a lot and everybody else having access to nothing. And I think that stems a lot from those examples that I give that, bring down trust and efficiency and data culture. So actively partnering with the IT experts in Department of Technology and Innovation is where we want this strategy to fit into the broader long-term strategy of a facilitated governed access, where we're empowering the folks within departments to use tools and understand things like Tableau prep, but not do it in a way that just takes another 10 years to sort of dig deeper silos and create more barriers. So I hope that's helpful. Just looking back and giving a group of technical folks something that more of the strategy and sort of data, big picture data side. But in closing, this type of group is these are the groups that I learned everything from. So I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to chat and sort of share our story. And of course, you saw in that slide, there's a lot of different specifics that we go into. So if you want to reach out and chat, by all means, just shoot me an email. I love to chat data and Tableau all day. With that being said, that's it from me. Hopefully I didn't go too long for you, but I'll turn it back over to Jack. I don't know if there's any questions or if we're going to go into the next one.
Thanks for that, Lewis. That was great. That was really good to hear about Chicago's journey with Tableau. It seems like it's been a long one, but a valuable one. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions for Lewis? I know there aren't any in the Q&A. I don't think participants have the ability to unmute themselves, so you would have to chuck it in the Q&A for us, but I'll give anyone a minute. Oh, I needed to hit start on the Q&A. We'll give people a second if there are questions.
No worries. I'll be on for the rest of the session, so be happy to catch up on specifics after.
Okay, yeah. Oh, hang on. I'm just going to approve Brady because then you can ask a question. Did you have a question, Brady? I'm assuming. There is a question. Do you guys have a data warehouse for analytics purpose, or do you connect to various record management systems directly from Tableau?
Yeah, we do a bit of both, kind of. We've got a long-term strategy to have an enterprise data portal internal. We have public data portals that is open to all the City of Chicago, and you folks, if you want to check it out, it's data.cityofchicago.org. So it's a combination of the two. Ideally, we would have more of a warehouse approach and a single point for all folks to connect to the data regardless of platform. So, we're a government house, so we've got, the good old Power BI. But, we're sort of platform agnostics technically. We don't want to force every single operation to use the same exact platform. There's value, I think, in having, multiple ways to get to the data, but there's nothing more valuable than a single source of truth for data, as you folks likely know. So we're not there yet, but that's why I think tools like Tableau are incredibly powerful because of the flexibility of being able to connect to something, connect to an Excel document that still runs, some chunk of the operation, to connect to a custom built. I'm in the budget office, and we have a custom built budget system that we can connect to, and also connect to an SAP database, an Oracle database. So we fully use all the million connector types of Tableau, and to be honest, that was the first attraction to the product is because we could bring in multiple sources because we knew that was going to be a challenge that wasn't going to go anywhere anytime soon. But again, learning what we've learning from the past, we do want to at least go towards a centralized sort of access point for data, both for quality and security purposes as well. We want we want to get away from the sort of ad hoc giving somebody at one time access. We want to sort of have it driven by roles and ownership of the data, and really lean into the data stewards within departments.
Thanks for that, Lewis. Jen, I'm not sure if you've got a follow-up question to that. If you do, feel free to drop it in there. But whilst you do, there is another question from Rich's, which maybe needs some elaboration. But the question is, can full data cleaning be done with Tableau Prep? Where I would imagine that question is going is, do you rely on Tableau Prep for every stage of your data preparation, or is there work that's done before, maybe not after, if you're then putting it straight into Tableau, but how does it fit into the broader piece?
Yeah, that's a great question. For our group, we use Tableau Prep for everything, and mostly because of that's what we learned and what I learned. Again, this for many years as a team of two, me and my boss, and it became our platform of choice, and we sort of built everything into that. And strategically because it's very learnable. Right? I feel like you can build a prep flow that, again, going to the trust topic. I really love Tableau Prep because not just because you could automate things, but also I could work back my work and know exactly what I did to the data. Because sometimes there's some major cleaning going on, and having that set undocumented in someone's head is not a great way to sort of create efficiencies across years. So we leaned into Tableau Prep as much as we could. We've got some really talented folks on my team that we've since grown our team since I started. We've got a team of 6 in the data analytics crew here at OVM, and there's some really talented folks that use R and SQL and can build much more sophisticated models than I can. And so again, that's another thing why we like Tableau, is because it's compatible with those type of more advanced scripting tools. Our ETL process, and this is the piece that I wish I had gotten in more granular detail, but I decided to stick a little bit high level for the call. But our ETL process definitely has evolved over time. It became, originally it was really just me making it more efficient for myself, trying to understand the sort of lay of the land for the city. What department code is what department name, because they've changed over the years. We have thousands and thousands of funds. So what amounts to a sort of sticky note by your monitor becomes a table in Excel that becomes connected to everything else. And before I realized, since I wasn't a data person originally, I realized I was just creating a sort of standard, key for cleaning data and then bringing that in the Tableau. Tableau then being sort of the authorized spot that folks can use and leverage. So we're all, calling the data the same thing. So we, I guess to answer the question, yes, we try to use prep as much as we can, but we don't limit ourselves, especially because of the type of systems we have to connect to.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Well, if there are other questions for Lewis, feel free to drop them in the chat as they come into your head, or the Q&A. Lewis will be on for the rest of the call. Okay.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We'll hand it over next time. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Rich's, maybe you can dive into it a bit more later, Lewis, or in
the sure. I'll be on. I'm happy to touch base on the tail end of the call.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so we are now going to hand over to Josui and hear a little bit more about the Tableau Prep landscape, both past and future.
Hi, thank you, Jack. It was a great presentation, Lewis, and you did my job easy because you talked about how Tableau Prep has been helpful in your journey, and you kind of touched upon the evolution of the product as we speak over the years. Let me quickly share my screen, and it's a mix of a bit of show and tell and a bit of reading from a deck. Let me know when you can, if you can see me on display settings with my deck showing on presentation mode.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so we'll come back to who I am at the end of the thing, but what I have planned for today is to take you through the history of Tableau and Prep, then talk about the Prep Builder as of today and how it combines and works seamlessly with the Tableau platform, talk about the road ahead in a nutshell, because I'm not the expert of what's coming and I don't have a crystal ball either. And then the interesting part, probably the later part of my presentation today, would be a show and tell of a real world use case that I used Tableau Prep, and I had no other way of doing it but use Tableau Prep. So this is going to be an interesting show and tell, so stick around for that. Uh, if I have to start talking about the history of Tableau and Prep, I have to share the blog written by Jock. And here it is. I stuck the link in the deck, and I will be posting that later on my and I will share it with the team here so that you can later on go through it. But this is Jock McKinley's visual analysis blog. He goes into details of how the infrastructure was, how it all started, when did the conference first start, and the entire journey, the thought behind it, the founder members of Tableau, and then how it went from there to be a VizQL at the heart of it, to what makes it different from the other visualization tools that you have out there. So if you come across anyone arguing Power BI versus Tableau, this blog could be a good place for you to, you know, put your tool set and having the talking points as to why Tableau does it different. And then it goes into the connectivity, what are the connectors available, the tabular structure of and then the data source, how we have joins and later on blends, earlier blends, joins, and relationships now, and what is coming next, performance, and all of these key points. He goes pretty much into the details of the vision behind Tableau, how it started, where it is. And the best part that I like is he's built a visualization where you could, it's a Tableau Viz. Let me blow it up a little bit more. And you could choose product, whether be it public, prep. I chosen prep. This is a prep talk. And he's broken it down. There is like a information icon which explains this visualization. Like a gold is a profound impact on the Tableau customers and the industry. Iron is a feature which is not met the gold standard, but yet is significant. And then water is all of the features. So with this three different flavors, he's classified all the different releases of Tableau Prep over the years by version. And the best part is you can then further drill down by clicking on one of those and open that exact same release. Go to that section and read through what that means in actual words today. So I thought this is very topical and I wanted to share it with you. Next, what I have is we talked about this. Now I want to share Tableau Prep as we know it today, right? We know Tableau Prep is a self-service data preparation for, and I'm saying this for the completeness of my presentation. I know most of you might be prep savvy, participating in prepping data, the weekly challenges, the monthly challenges that you have, or the community projects you must be using. But there are a few who might be listening to this event who are early on in their Tableau journey. And I want to call out that prep is an integral part of data preparation. It is a self-service data preparation platform, and it's user friendly. It's drag and drop. If you like Tableau and the way it works, how intuitive the tool is, I can guarantee you will love Tableau Prep. You can combine, shape, clean, transform your data, design flows, and we'll talk about this in the show and tell, publish those flows into server or cloud, and then have those flows run at a particular schedule to suck up data, bring in data, stitch it all together, transform it, and push it out either as a dot hyper, is it a CSV or a Tableau file, for Tableau desktop to consume as one data source. And the benefit of that is sometimes you have published data sources on server, which there is no other way as of today. Uh, in future, it's probably going to change in 6 months to a year from now, because I know teams are working on it. But as of today, there is no way you could combine published data sources in Tableau. That's where prep comes in, and my use case is towards that. So as of today, Tableau prep plays a significant role in any serious business where data is not as clean or is not shaped ready for Tableau's consumption. What's going to happen next? I don't have a crystal ball, but from all the seminars and the events that I've attended, a lot has changed. A lot is changing rather quickly. And there's a concept of things on the flow of things on the cloud, marketplace, agent force. And I'm looking forward to the Tableau conference. We're going to meet the design team, know more, and be able to share more about it. All right, switching gears. Now that we have the context of what's Tableau Prep, where it was, how it's today and future, I want to talk about one of the use cases that I helped my clients with in quarter two, quarter three of this year. My client is, I'm not going to be able to share the name, but they are in the supply chain business, and they have a whole bunch of trucks with a device called Geotab. If you look at the image here, they have these devices installed in them. And these devices record driving speed, how much time the engine is idling, how much time it's driving, things like that, utilization, vehicle utilization. And these recorded data points are then uploaded into their Geotab cloud infrastructure. Now, the project goal was to analyze these data points. And there is a challenge. Geotab has its own cloud infrastructure, its own data environment. And the only way to farm the data or source the data is through making API calls. And here is the challenge, because when you make an API call, Geotab sends objects of these data. So if you have a device, if you need truck details, that's a separate table. If you need device attached to each of these trucks, that's a separate table. If you want information about driving speed of a vehicle, its utilization, its fuel efficiency, that's a separate table. If you want to know about um, other operations specific to that, that's a separate table. So you have these scattered objects in the Geotab cloud, and the goal of the project is to stitch these different objects together in a meaningful way for Tableau to do analytics, relate these various metrics, and produce one KPI dashboard for the operations team, one KPI dashboard for the leadership team, and so on and so forth. So now that we understand the use case, the business scenario, and the problem statement, uh, I will take you through the show and tell. What happened at the end of the project is we ended up building a bunch of Tableau prep flows. One of them is here. And these prep flows then would suck up these data. The data from each of these geotab, making an OData call over API, I've used Tableau Desktop to make those API calls. And then from desktop, I've published each of these data sources into Tableau Cloud. Now, once these data sources are published to the cloud, they can be automated and refreshed at a schedule set to daily, weekly, or what have you. And now those published data sources are then stitched together in the flow, as you can see here, produced into one output for each of these reporting. So if you have a vehicle KPI report, it stitches together the vehicle metadata, it stitches together the vehicle transactional data, it stitches together the device data, the geographical hierarchical data, the device group data, and then produces one output for that Tableau reporting to happen for operations team, for the leadership team, even build pulse metrics on top of them and send it out on mobile for those engineers or those managers who are in the field. Right. So an end-to-end implementation of the entire business process. Show and tell time. All right. This is the best part. Close these tabs. Okay. So what you see here on the screen, let me know if I need to blow it up. Here we have the finished product. The first one is the workbook. And then we have the flow. The two data sources, one is the device group. This is an OData connection to Geotab's API. Using the Geotab API, this OData connection, it sucks up all the data and published to the server as device group data source. Go back. Similarly, there is a vehicle KPI which gets the 6 months, 3 months data using the OData connection, publishes it into the server as a published data source. These two data sources have been used in this flow. The 3 months of vehicle KPI here, the device group published data source here, and then group hierarchy and device group are two flat files which have also been published into this flow. And from here, we design this nice flow of combining the locational hierarchy, the device group information into one location field. Similarly, combining this device group metadata with the hierarchy of vehicle class data set. Now we stitch together vehicle class, location, and the actual transactional data coming from for each of the vehicles into one data source and spit it out as an output. So if I do run this, I ran it before meeting today, and for the benefit of time, I'm not going to do that, but it successfully run today at 4:20 p.m. local. That data source is this vehicle KPI groups, which serves as the data source for my Tableau report, which in turn consumes it, builds out this kind of a dashboard with big numbers at the top, the KPIs we care for, and all of this, which is country, would have been a separate table. Location, separate hierarchical table. Vehicle class, another table. Vehicle class level 3. Unless I used Tableau Prep, all of these would have been separate tables, and I would have to struggle through blending data and never be able to arrive at these interactive, beautifully designed dashboards and these are all quick filters. So with that, I can now drill in, choose my range of dates, select, filter, and produce one seamless report. This is just the vehicle KPI. Similarly, there were several other KPI dashboards that we built, several other operational dashboards we built using that one data source. Once the operational team liked this, we prepared just the bands, just the KPI cards for a mobile view, took it to a pulse, created our pulse metrics for the clients, and it was a happy, happy story for all of us. I will take a pause here for questions.
There aren't any questions in the Q&A, but I'll give people a minute to add them. I had a question, which is around how do you find clients are generally adopting Tableau Pulse at the moment, and what are their challenges with that?
Out of my several clients over the years, Pulse being a new product, of course, there is the penetration and the adoption is not as much as I would have loved it to be honest. But there are a few clients who really appreciate it, who find it very impactful. It all depends on the mindset. And going back to what we heard today, is if you have a partner who is high up there in the leadership, who is with you in that journey, then convincing the middle management and the leaders is easier.
Yeah, I've definitely found that to be similar in our work with Tableau Pulse and any of our customers. I think people struggle with it a little bit because it's a very new experience, but for the ones that have identified the kind of small and valuable use cases for them, they're seeing a lot of usage of it, which is good to see. Let's see if there's anything in the chat. There was a question in the chat which was more around the tug about the recording being sent out. So the recording will get added to the Bevy page. It will be basically like an embedded link to the Tableau Prep user group YouTube channel. So that should go up there in the next few days. Lewis, I don't know if you had any questions that you wanted to ask.
No questions for me, but thanks again, everybody. Thanks for.
Yeah, I hope my presentation today would add some value to the team here. I try to be as surgical and topical with prep. And if you do have questions, don't be a stranger. I have the QR codes here. I started a YouTube channel when I'm recording some Tableau learning videos. I need your support, and do support the Tableau retail group. That's new. It's happening in January. We're meeting for the third time, and we need your support to grow it. So these are the two favors I need in return for my time today.
Thank you. I'll definitely be up for promoting that user group for you. There is a question which is more general, and happy for anyone to answer, around requesting data through an API call in Tableau. I've used Python to make an API call before. Don't know about Tableau and API calls.
I know there's a TabPy API that I've used before. It's been a while that I've used it, but there is possibility of integrating Python code with Tableau and farming data. Yes.
Yeah, there's not a like native API connection that you can drag in, but Josie's right in that there's a scripting step that you can add in. So you can, within your scripting step, connect that to a TabPy server, and from there you can pull a R or Python function that you've developed in a script. There's actually some YouTube videos out there on that. Let me see if I can find one.
Right, and there are a few homegrown web data connectors available out there in the market as well. But a word of caution and caveat: you might have to tweak it, make sure that it doesn't violate any security protocols in your company and things like so.
Good to added a YouTube video in the chat, which is an example of someone calling an API using Python in Tableau Prep. So go and check that out, Jin. Okay. Well, with that, if there's no more questions, then I'm happy to wrap things up there. Josue, Lewis, thank you very much for presenting. Thought they were great presentations. Everyone that's attended today, thank you for coming along again. We do these every 2 months, so the next session should be in February time. We don't have a date set right now, but as you've attended today, you will receive updates from Bevy when we publish that next event. So just keep your eyes peeled for that to come through. It will be a Americas and EMEA session next time. So if you are in APAC, then we'll be most likely in the middle of the night for you. If you want to attend, I'm not going to stop you, but don't feel like you have to. We record these sessions. So yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming.
Thanks, Jack.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Appreciate it. And thanks, everybody. Take care tonight, Josh.